Good morning, people. Today is the 29th day of January 2023. It is bright and early, as you can see down there, 8 o'clock in the morning. It is early. I haven't even shaved. How are you? Yesterday, I did a video in which I got some pushback. Good video, I think. By the way, they stepped up the quote-unquote protests via the black blockers, the agent provocateurs, the Antifas yesterday. We'll see how that pans out. I certainly hope that the lack of buying in from various communities in the country will kind of thwart their plans, but we'll see. I mean, it's kind of obvious that they stage a fucking destabilization campaign and no one shows up but fucking black bloc agent provocateur Antifas. Kind of fucks their plan a little bit, but we'll see. Anyway, that article that video I made got some pushback, and it got some pushback from people. It's called Killing Strangers 2, The Ghost of Benghazi Haunting Memphis. And it got some pushback from people who think that I made a mistake. I don't make many of those, folks. Now you say, ooh, Scott, that's arrogant. No, it's just I've been doing this a while, and if I talk about it, I know from which I speak. I don't talk about a lot of things because I don't know shit about a lot of things. But the shit I talk about, here's what started it off. This masterpiece of crappy amateur filmmaking you referred to in the video description is called The Innocence of the Muslims. I see after your video starts, you put up old article with correct, I guess, title of the video. Somebody else came in and said it was known as The Innocence of the Muslims. At the time, the original title was Desert Warriors. It's all well and good, and your opinions of this might work very well with I don't know, CIA's Wikipedia, talking about innocence of the Muslims. By the way, you'll see some names here. Nakula Basili Nakula, and of course Sam Basile, otherwise known as Imbecile, which I talked about yesterday, which we will talk more about now. Understand this. Wikipedia is not going to tell you why the film was actually created, when the film was actually. I think they do get the date right in terms of filming. Maybe. I don't know. I'm looking for it now. Looking to see when they wrote that it was actually shot. They talk about when it was uploaded. In September of 2012, days before the quote-unquote uprising. We talked about that. I don't need to go back through why they did it, what they did it for, but I don't see here where they say when it was actually filmed. They do mention, of course, that it's Nakula Basili Nakula and under the pseudonym of Sam Basile, otherwise known as Imbecile. But I don't see, here they go, in July of 2011, he started casting for Desert Warrior. Okay, that's all well and good. They seem to skip a big part of it, which we will talk about now. Yes, indeed, it started off as Desert Warrior. You're not going to get Muslim-looking actors to come at a time when things were as heated as they were to do a film called The Innocence of Bin Laden or The Innocence of Muslims. So they had this film called Desert Warriors. importantly enough, remember the dates we talked about. Here is the flyer. This is what they posted. I told you yesterday that Sam Basile was the pseudonym for Nakuli Basile Nakuli. And Nakula Basile Makuli ran around and posted flyers to try to get people to go to a July 2012 viewing of a film called The Innocence of Bin Laden. It's the exact same 14-minute film. Okay? Nakula Basile Nakula, or Sam Basile, was a meth manufacturer and bank fraud, convicted of bank fraud and manufacturing crystal meth. He was busted. He was then put on probation later, and then he violated his probation and was put back in federal pen. And the feds came to him with an offer. They financed it. He produced it. He claims Sam Basile directed it. Turns out he's Sam Basile. So he produced it and he directed it. For the feds to use as a honeypot in Los Angeles to go find radicalized Muslims that they could use, as they often do, and even did back then. This is an article I wrote in 2010, a year prior to, well, 6 months prior to him actually making the damn thing. There are no terrorists in this country that aren't on our payroll. It's just that simple. In yet another case, an FBI sting operation goes awry, codenamed Oracle. God, I'm sick of the Matrix. Infiltrated a California mosque and started spouting his violent jihad jabber, you know, the kind of stuff that FBI agents think is cool in the Muslim world. Well, this should tell you how cool those Muslims thought it was. They took out restraining order against the Oracle and called the FBI to report him as a terrorist. Over and over again, we see the same pattern, where the FBI, Joint Terrorism Task Force, and the CIA, or Department of Homeland Security, create some kind of terrorist attempt that they can then pat themselves on the back for stopping. This time, they paid the FBI informant, read as the guy who tried to create a terrorist attack, $177,000 tax-free dollars during the 15-month process. That means they paid the guy more than the average doctor makes after taxes. How you like that? Our tax money paid that guy more than what a doctor makes, and his only qualifications were that he looked Muslim and he had been busted for a felony-level forgery. And now he's a criminal on the government payroll. I wrote that 6 months prior to them hiring Sam Basile, or getting Sam Basile to make something that ended up in its second iteration, the second time they used it, called The Innocence of Muslims. But the first time, Sam Basile was hawking this piece of shit, made for the FBI with FBI dollars to entrap the kind of Muslims I just read an article from 2010 talking about. He was running around posting up flyers for a film called Innocence of Bin Laden. Okay? Are you with me so far? Waffle Stoffel and Johnny got his gun. Are you with me so far? Good. Now, I suggested to you, you just simply go over and read what I wrote. There are 3 articles no less than. There's a ton more, but there are 3 articles in which you can find really information, poignant information, which connects, which the same thing Wikipedia did years later, connecting Nakula Basile Nakula to Sam Basile and the film. By the way, he ended up being, once people figured out who he was, you guys don't remember what happened after Benghazi, but people were pissed off that some more angry Muslims, quote unquote, attacked and killed, what was his name? What was his fucking name? Stevens. And 3 other Americans in Benghazi. So it was very important to find out who this guy was, and they tried to hide it, but when people who did really good work, Justin Raimondo was one of those people. People did really good work, they found out who he was. Not surprisingly, reporters wanted to talk to him and find out why he made this film. So you know what they did? The feds snatched him up, ran him off, hit him, and then prosecuted him. He pled guilty, and they whisked him off to a high-security fucking federal penitentiary where he will never, ever, ever be heard from again or asked any pertinent questions. This one I wrote, talking about who that guy is, on August the 2nd. No, September 14th. I'm sorry, that's when I reposted it. September the 14th, 2012. When did the Benghazi attack happen? September 11th. I was already digging into who this guy was and the innocence of the Muslims / innocence of bin Laden FBI honey trap film a day after it happened. By the way, I'll tell you right now, this will explain to you why I live like this and Max Blumenthal lives like he does. Because while I was fucking digging through this, and people like Justin Raimondo, who's gone now, was digging through this shit and finding stuff, while we were doing that, Max Blumenthal was blaming the attack on Benghazi on this stupid fucking film that they could never have possibly seen, and providing cover for the Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Sidney Blumenthal, Tyler Drumheller operation that took place to justify Barack Obama droning more and more people in Libya to tamp down the revolution that was taking place. Libyans getting their fucking country back. Now, this is how I live for doing what I did. Max, on the other hand, I know from which I speak, which is not the point of this video. It is because apparently some people don't seem to, when I suggest, hey, you know what? I know this is kind of out there. It's not the same thing as, I don't know, Wikipedia tells you, but it's out there. Why don't you go and take a look at what I wrote? Because there it is. It's accessible. You can read it yourself. But instead, you're wrong. It's not called that. It's called Innocence of the Muslims. How do you know that? Because the Wikipedia, CIA's Wikipedia says so. Yeah. Well, it was made in Blue Cloud Movie Ranch, which has its own fucking history. You can go look up Blue Cloud Movie Ranch in California as well. And he was clearly working for the feds when he made it. Let's read Killing Strangers a bit, shall we? This is Killing Strangers. which is this is June 2015. This is sometime after, obviously, and I put together a bunch of information talking about Max Blumenthal, talking about Paul Blumenthal, which most of you guys don't even know. Paul Blumenthal is Max Blumenthal's brother and both the sons of Sidney Blumenthal. Paul got started with Soros's Sunlight Foundation. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge. Say no more, say no more. It's a good fucking article. It's a long article. I don't know why the fucking text is as small as it is. I apologize for that. I'm going to put my glasses on, and I'm going to read this section for you in its fucking entirety for those folks who don't understand where I'm coming from. So you two pay attention. Johnny and Waffle, because this is for you. The reason why, the pretext for the attack, the motive is important. It has to be believable that a spontaneous protest against a silly film turned ugly unexpectedly, and that's why 4 people died. And Obama was ultimately forced to put boots on the ground in Libya and other African nations in order to quell the uprising against our puppet regimes. Without that pretext, people will start to wonder about the event itself, and thus their precious legitimacy is lost. Enter Sam Basile and the Innocence of the Muslims. On September 12, 2012, Max Blumenthal, which, by the way, remember when I was writing my stuff, that's actually correct. On September 12, 2012, Max Blumenthal wrote an article and there's a link to it, which he claimed the motive for the attack against the compound in Benghazi was Muslim outrage against a film called Innocence of the Muslims, crafted by a self-proclaimed Jew named Sam Basile. It's interesting to note that earlier this month, it was revealed that Hillary Clinton forwarded a link to this article on the afternoon of September 12th by a colleague less than 2 hours after Max had posted it. It's not known how she came to find this article or who sent her that in the first place. That part of the story has been redacted. Let me take a break for a second. Obviously, Sidney Blumenthal, Clinton fucking acolyte, Clinton fucking hatchet man, Clinton bag man, lifelong, father of Max Blumenthal, is that connection. How did Max start writing while fires were still burning in Benghazi? How did Max write? The reason they did this was because of this 14-minute film that nobody ever saw that was posted to some bullshit account that nobody knew about on YouTube. How did Max know that? Again, where's the connection? The connection is Sidney fucking Blumenthal, who, by the way, had been running around for a month in fucking Libya with a guy named Tyler Drumheller, whose career prior to that was running fucking proxy armies and destabilization campaigns in other countries. Are you with me so far? Let's get back to this. Max quickly ran around TV circuit, promoting this bullshit, telling folks about Sam Basile and the video which supposedly sparked the outrage. Max quickly became the front man for the narrative, which was a false narrative. Max never revealed his source for his conclusions in his article, Meet the Right-Wing Extremists Behind Anti-Muslim Film That Sparked Deadly Riots. And there's very good reason for that. The source most likely was his father, Sidney Blumenthal, who was on the payroll of the Clinton Global Initiative as a message shaper at the time and was working in Libya for the State Department. He was on the payroll of both the Clinton Global Initiative and the State Department while he was there, communicating with Hillary Clinton, and teamed up with former CIA PSYOP specialist and retired general from the Pentagon who spent 2002 going to any news station that would have him lying about weapons of mass destruction and yellow cake from Nigeria. That was Tyler Drumheller. Blumenthal's team's mission was simple: help make Libya safe for various U.S. businesses, and specifically one which looked to profit from the privatization of the healthcare system. But more on that in a second. Let's talk about Sam Basile and the innocence of the Muslims first. While Max was running around trying to help sell the official story during the initial days of the unofficial investigation to what happened in Benghazi that night, folks like myself weren't buying it. It didn't take long for people to figure out Sam Basile was really longtime FBI informant named Vasily Nakula, who made the film much earlier under the name The Innocence of Bin Laden as a honeypot trap for the feds in California in an effort to lure dim-witted fucking patsies to its viewing in Los Angeles. The original title was The Innocence of Bin Laden, which the filmmaker expected would attract an audience of radical Islamists who would become disillusioned about their faith after watching, Klein said. This should have been part of the quote from The Smoking Gun. I didn't get that, because I wouldn't just toss in someone's name without giving you the full name. Quote, Sam had a crew of people passing out flyers around the dangerous mosques in California, trying to get these folks who love bin Laden, who would come to cheer bin Laden, Klein said. But the movie was going to expose all the stuff that Muhammad actually did, like murder and pedophilia and all that stuff. That's from the San Francisco Chronicle. This is from The Smoking Gun. With an Arabic interpreter standing by, Nakula told Snyder about his decision to inform. He explained, I decided to cooperate with the government to retrieve some of the mistakes or damage happened. I want to cooperate with the government that they can catch with this other criminals who is their involvement. The guy was not, English was a second language. A variety of documents found in the U.S. District Court case were sealed at the request of the prosecutors and Nicola's lawyer. The sealed records from the transcript of Nicola's change of plea hearing to sentencing memoranda appear to be to indicate that his plea agreement with the government included some form of cooperation. That was from The Smoking Gun. 2010, Nakula was released from prison in part due to his promise to cooperate with the federal authorities. In early 2011, he started casting for something he called Desert Warrior at the time of 2000. In August of 2011, they shot the film. That's all the same shit you get here from Innocence of the Muslims. And, by the way, that's all the same shit you get from Waffle Stoffel and others. Okay? All the same shit. Flyers started popping up in various Muslim stores and mosques in the LA area, advertising the film called The Innocence of Bin Laden in June of 2012. This happened, the Benghazi thing happened in September 11th, 2012. So I did make one mistake. Let me own the mistake. I told you it was made 2000. He started 2011. This was early 2011, a year and a half. He started making it a year and a half before. But the use of it, or attempted use of it in LA, was not a year before, like I said yesterday. It was only fucking 6 months. If that long, 3 months before. So it was fresh on their mind. They had this fucking video. So it wasn't like they had to go dig through archives and say, oh, wait, we got this we can use. It was something that was fresh on their mind, and it had been a failure in fucking LA. Okay? Okay, so I will take that one on the chin. I'll take the L on that one. flyers started popping up in various Muslim stores and mosques in LA area advertising a film called The Innocence of Bin Laden in early 2012, June 2012. The screening, one day only, was held on June 23rd at Vine Theater in Hollywood, and no one showed up. The honeypot trap failed to produce any, quote, radical Muslims for the Justice Department, who we must assume put Mr. Nicola up to this in the first place. Again, let's go back to that. December 10th, 2000, and December 5th, 2010, months prior to them fucking making it, a year and a couple of months prior to them actually doing this shit in July of 2012, I'm writing an article telling you about how all of these fucking radicalized Muslims that they're running around trying to fucking, they're spawning them. They're not spawning them in. It's not a video game. They got to cultivate them. They got to find them. And that's what Nicola Basile Nicola was trying to help them with in 2011 and 2012. Another viewing was scheduled for June 30th. I'm sorry, June, not July. June 30th at the same location. Another bite at the apple, I suppose. But a Hollywood blogger raised concerns about the film on the 29th at a city council meeting, and the second showing was canceled. So some blogger comes along and says they're just fucking, this is a honeypot. They're trying to get innocent Muslims to come in there to watch this film so they can then try to figure out a way to entrap them. Later, the film would be slightly reworked and uploaded to YouTube by this character named Sam Basile, who we all know is Nicola Basile Nicola. On July 1st, 2012, it had been voluntarily blocked by YouTube and Google in both Egypt and Libya long before the attack of September 11th. The Innocence of Bin Laden honeypot, crafted by the feds and then created by one of their by the informants, had failed to produce any results, but it was about to serve a secondary purpose as the reborn Innocence of the Muslims psyop. After all, unconventional warfare needs legitimacy, so the attack on the Benghazi compound needed a motive. They didn't just want anyone to look too closely at it. And here we are. Don't look too closely. Which explains Wikipedia. Much of this stuff, Smoking Gun, Justin Raimondo, these are sources that are used, and what was the other one? There were several others. These are, in some cases, mainstream sources, all ignored here. Why? And of course, none of that happens. None of that is, the whole purpose of this goes away if nobody comes out and goes, oh, look, it was this video. Thank you, Max Blumenthal, son of Sidney Blumenthal, brother of Paul Blumenthal, who got his start with George Soros. Okie dokie. I just toss this in there for you. Take a look at. Again, another one of these fucking Blumenthal fucking folks. Dan Kovalik. By the way, remember I told you about all those books being done by these limited hangout assets, right? I told you about a certain publishing house, Simon & Schuster. That video got taken down, by the way, by, was it an article I wrote or was it a video I wrote? I don't know what it was. It was taken down by either Bloomberg or it was YouTube that got taken down. Because I was talking about Simon & Schuster paying off these fucking, and megaphoning the message of these limited hangout assets. This limited hangout asset, by the way, also has a book through Skyhorse Publishing and Simon & Schuster. However, be that as it may, fucking broken clock is right twice a day. Be that as it may, he does have a good fucking point to make here, and that is, I'm not going to play it because fuck him, the 78th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz by the Soviet Union. But guess who's not invited? Russia. We really are back to, and again, I'll take you back to this article that I wrote fucking 13 years ago, 12 years ago. We really are back to the old fucking days. There's a good, I forget who actually did this. I think I posted a link to it someplace before. Talking about the intelligence, the development, the creation, and the development and the corruption and the ideology of the intelligence industry. When people said, "Oh my God, you can't challenge fucking, what happened with fucking GS5 and GSHC, what is it? GCHQ? Is that the British one? It turns out they were fucking spying on us through the Five Eyes thing, spying on Donald Trump, and when we came up with that information, everyone said you're gonna fucking undermine the trust people have in our intelligence institutions. Oh my God, how dare you do that? Then of course, 5 days later, the Guardian comes out and goes, "Oh yeah, by the way, GCHQ was indeed spying on Donald Trump's fucking campaign at the request of the Obama administration." All fucking true. This is what they did. Obviously, Operation Paperclip. But there's so much to it. Let me read a little bit of this for you. Back in 1945, the OSS was abolished. The remaining American information agencies ceased covert action and returned to harmless information gathering and analysis. But then along comes Operation Paperclip. While other American agencies are hunting down Nazi war criminals for arrest, the U.S. intelligence community is smuggling them into America unpunished for their use against the Soviets. Remember, they just banned Russia from attending the 78th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, which they fucking did. The most important of these is Reinhold Gehlen, Hitler's spy master who had built up intelligent networks in the Soviet Union. With full U.S. blessing, he creates Gehlen Organization, a band of refugee Nazi spies who reactivate their networks in Russia. These include SS intelligence officers Alfred Six, Emil Augsburg, who massacred Jews in the Holocaust, Klaus Barbie, the Butcher of Lyon, Otto von Buschwing, the Holocaust mastermind who worked with Eichmann, and SS Colonel Otto Skorzeny, personal friend of Hitler's. The Gehlen Organization supplies the U.S. with its only intelligence on the Soviet Union for the next 10 fucking years, while they were waiting for the creation of the CIA, serving as the bridge between the abolishment of the OSS and the creation of the CIA. However, much of the intelligence the former Nazis provide is bogus. Gehlen inflates Soviet military capabilities at the time when Russia is still rebuilding its devastated society in order to inflate its own importance to the Americans who might otherwise punish him. In 1948, Gehlen almost convinces Americans that war is imminent and the West should take a preemptive strike. In the 50s, he produced a fictitious missile gap. And then it says the Russians penetrated the Gehlen Organization with double agents, and everything was fucked since then. Then we go into the creation of fucking Gladio, and all these lovely little tricks. Regime change in fucking Iran, 1953, Mockingbird. Lovely, 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 lovely shit. Much of it brought to you by Nazis. There is, I don't just tell you that about what happened with the commons left and this is the truth. I'm not just saying, okay, listen, I know what I'm talking about. Some things, most things, I don't, but then I don't talk about those things. But I tell you that so I can tell you this, I guess. They will amplify disinformation assets and fucking limited hangout assets. Prime example is the innocence of Muslims and innocence of Bin Laden. Prime example. They will amplify their assets, their limited hangout assets, while they undermine, attack, censor, kick off YouTube those that don't play the game. And this happens all the time. However, that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is this. The good news is, says Mighty Man, I'm playing with, the good news is we're still out here. And we're still doing the best we can. Again, says Mighty Man. We're still out here. We're still doing the best we can. It takes a lot to kind of move through the muck and figure out who's telling you the truth and who is not. And I'm not saying either of these two individuals who left comments are deliberately misleading. I'm saying that they have been deliberately misled. Here's the difference. And with good reason. Because if it's Sam Basile or Nicola Basile, Nicola Basola, whatever the fuck his name is, if it's him and it ends with him because he doesn't like Jewish people and Muslim people, that's it. If it goes beyond him to the FBI and then somehow we find out that same thing was in the possession of the FBI 4 months prior to it being released someplace else. And then we have fucking Max Blumenthal saying that's the fucking problem, when in all actuality, no one asks where Max Blumenthal got that information. Turns out Sidney Blumenthal was actually in fucking Libya working for the Clinton Foundation and the State Department at the same time. Then we start to understand maybe he got his information from Sidney Blumenthal working with the CIA former general regime change specialist Tyler Drumheller, who, by the way, died of cancer right before he was going to testify at the Benghazi trial. And, of course, Hillary Clinton's email then comes out, which is why I wrote that article in the first place in 2015. Hillary's email comes out and says she was running around telling everybody, look, it's fucking Max Blumenthal's got this great article. All of this is happening 12 hours after the embers are put out. Max is writing the article while the fires are still burning. Whereas the truth was clearly fucking out there for people to fucking find with the resources that someone like Max Blumenthal has at his disposal, were he to want to have. And the proof of that is a jackass like myself, 20 hours after the event, was able to put more shit together than he ever did. Yeah, they'll bring Nazis in and run our goddamn intelligence agencies. But we're not Nazi yet. And that was a long, long time ago. So, a little good news for you there. A little positive news for you there. Unfortunately, people like Justin Raimondo are gone. He had his libertarian fucking limits as well, but unfortunately, he's gone, and fewer and fewer are doing what we do right now. Sitting around whispering together as men. But we're still out here. Anyway, just wanted to clear the air on that. Just so you know. If I ask you to read, there's no fucking ads on my website. I'm not trying to get fucking clicks so I can make money. If I make a statement, something as big as that, and I say, hey, check the fucking articles. I got a bunch of them. Here they are. Before you fucking run around and say, Scott, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Why don't you know this? Why don't you know that? Why don't you go look at the articles first? Anyway, it is Sunday. I want to go have a good Sunday. Cutting more grass and playing with my dog Bo. I guess he can hear it in my voice when my tone changes. So he knows when I'm wrapping up a video. Don't you, Bo? You know when I'm done, don't you? And he takes off. I got him trained so well. Hi. You gonna say hi to the people? Oh, he's gone. Have a good Sunday. Take care. Bye-bye.